Londoners might have been already rehearsing for the long party that the 60s would become, but outside the main centres, it was hard to find any place that had what you might call nightlife. The fish and chip shop was often as good as it got. Esher, with its mock Tudor avenues, typically of British towns of the time, didn't offer much for energetic teens. But at least it had a youth centre with modern ideas. The plan was to turn tongue-tied, girl-shy youths into polished Romeos.
The district youth officer thought it a good idea to start a course on how to speak, dine out, and dress for the occasion. Girls like a free and easy coffee bar atmosphere, but they're flattered when a boy dresses properly to take them out.
Where are you off to, Malcolm?
I'm taking the girl out for dinner.
What, in that outfit?
What's wrong with it?
What do you think of this?
Not bad. Can I try it on?
Certainly.
A good lounge suit is worth having. Later on, perhaps, a dinner jacket.
Now, you're a real man about town, Malcolm.
But suppose you've got to make a speech at some do or other.
David, is that speaking, whether in public or otherwise, is a perfectly natural function.
Well, it's all right for you.
And it'll be all right for you too. Now let's get down to this business.
On the night, he makes the speech as easily as if he were an MP.
May I take this opportunity of thanking the organising committee for the wonderful job they have done on this course, culminating in tonight's dinner. To conclude, I hope that you will all come along next week to the Twist and Shout competition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
If public speaking failed to do the trick in attracting the opposite sex, then one young inventor created a shameless shortcut, the snogometer.
Mother's got nothing to worry about because it's all child's play. But see what happens when someone just that much more mature gets to grips with the problem. Holy smoke.
There were other signs that teenagers were taking charge of their own social lives. Members of the Bohemian Dance Club, for example, danced to pretty conventional jazz. But their dress code was pure anarchy.
The craze started here at the Tollington Park Dance Club in North London, but it's already catching on in other areas. The youngsters from 14 upwards come from all walks of life and include schoolgirls, bank clerks, junk dealers, labourers and window dressers. And talking about dresses, the most conventional clothes on view are the new pointed shoes, presumably not for squares. As you can imagine, the idea is to look like nothing on earth, even if it means looking like a nightmare, although we must admit there's no limit to their ingenuity.
The seeds of this style rebellion were first sown by the students of a progressive boarding school called Summerhill. It had been founded in the late 1930s, but in the anything-goes 60s, it was coming into its own.
The staff of the school believe that if you blindly forbid children to do something, then they will certainly revolt. The answer is to allow them to find out for themselves whether these conventions are good or bad. Besides which, smoking calms the nerves. At the school, meals are one of the principal times for getting together, a time for talking and relaxation. There's little place for tradition here, they say, because tradition means clinging to the dead past. Attitudes and values should change naturally. Drama lessons rate high in the syllabus. The drama teacher takes the lead by demonstrating method acting. The pupils make up the story, which enables them to develop both imagination and that rare ability to stand up without shyness in front of an audience.
There was no culture shock for newcomers here. The pupils all came from unconventional homes. Yet despite the bracing air of freedom, the school would have a high dropout rate. The main complaint: it's boring when there are no rules to break. But the biggest impact on youth culture came from a pirate ship that had turned itself into a floating radio station called Caroline. Its unashamed pop music playlist was a barefaced challenge to the BBC, which had a complete radio monopoly at the time and refused to play the new wave of music. Simon D., like many after him, would soon be plying his trade on the BBC's hasty response to Caroline, Radio 1. It was pirate radio such as Caroline that launched a little-known Liverpool pop group on a sea of teenage hysteria. Fans like these, beating on the doors of a Manchester theatre, discovered the Fab Four long before the music industry picked up the scent. Beatlemania had arrived, and it swept the nation.
Paul McCartney gets the full treatment, the kind the fans have taught him to expect. The boys show the press their latest present. They're a natural, these fabulous four, bubbling over with fun, getting as much kick out of entertaining as the fans get from them.
Some months later, thousands of fans waited through the night at Heathrow Airport to welcome home their heroes after a sensational triumph in America. Came the dawn, and before you could shout John, Paul, George and Ringo, there they were. The four lads who were standing the whole world of pop music on its head. For the very first time, we had a pop group who could outshine and outsell the best Americans. The Beatles had moved from outrageous rock and roll rebels to lovable national heroes in just a couple of years. Now they were being given MBEs. Had they become too respectable? Or were the establishment just getting with it? The real bad boys of rock were the Rolling Stones and the Beatles' biggest rivals. And with the fickleness of youth, some of us could be seen switching allegiance. They were shocking, and they had a dangerous edge. Our parents hated them, but we loved them.
The Stones shot up to the stratosphere of fame, their music heard everywhere, their offbeat appearance known to millions. Here in the flesh, Keith Richard and Brian Jones, and the drummer, Charlie Watts.
With Mick Jagger out front as their prancing sex god, they were the living representation of rebellion. This was their famous Hyde Park concert, free to everyone, in honor of their friend and group member Brian Jones, who had recently died.
Some 3,500 white butterflies were released. Mick Jagger had read a poem which included the line, "He is not dead," in tribute to the young guitarist who had died shortly before in the swimming pool at his home. In the oldest traditions of show business, the show went on. Not everybody understands the youngsters who like this kind of music.
This was the high summer of a social phenomenon that had the prestigious American magazine Time hailing this old country as swinging Britain. If we had the kings of music, we also had the queen of fashion. Her name, Mary Quant. She was a refreshing change from fashion gurus who designed only for the rich. Her aim was to make smart, modern styling available to shopgirls and secretaries, as well as career women. She started out from that famous 60s address, Kings Road, Chelsea, and soon her shops were all over the nation, and her fashions on every high street. Young women no longer dressed like their mothers. If anything, the move was the other way. Age difference and the class difference began to blur. The new social climate and the arrival of the pill had given women control over their own lives. It was strikingly reflected in the bumper crop of new lifestyle magazines aimed at the independent woman.
Men, of course, have their job to do in this woman's world. Printing 26,000 copies an hour, over 3 million a week, is a full-time job. It's worth saying again that it is more and more a woman's world, and women are largely responsible for making sure it stays that way. As
women became more assertive, there was an inevitable male response. Now men's magazines and even newsreels began to bang on about this